welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Twinsies.
So for those of you who don't know, this is a daddy-daughter event. So I definitely get embarrassed by him.
Happens. The man of the hour has arrived.
You're on mute.
Okay, here we are.
There we go. Here we are.
Yeah, what's good, y'all?
What's that shirt say, man? What's that shirt say?
So this shirt is from one of my good brothers who's an educator, and it says "Teach, Hustle, Inspire."
Facts.
Period.
We love it.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite joints. A really good dude, Sean Woodley, and this is part of his merch. So whenever I get on space, I try to rep for my folks. So I'm rocking his joints today. Usually I'm rocking the hip hop ed joints. I'm rocking the Teach, Hustle, Inspire today.
Love it. One day you'll be repping us.
I say black on black education.
Send me a joint or let me know when I could cop. I'll go pick it up.
Put the address in the DM, and there's one on the way.
All right, done. That's love. Appreciate that.
Yes.
So we're going to give people just a few more minutes to get in, 2 more minutes, and then we are going to get to this conversation that I, for one, have been looking forward to for a long time, man.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm psyched to be able to do it. I'm sitting here with my little ones, so we might hear a little noise or two in the backdrop, but otherwise we're good to go.
That's life.
It looks pretty where you at. Where are you?
Man, I'm at a little spot, a little further upstate New York.
Okay.
And we got some trees. They got the babies are on the water. And, it's just, sometimes you need a little getaway.
Yeah.
I got to ask you how you define upstate New York, because people say I live upstate and I never appreciate it. Like, I really get offended. So where's upstate?
No, I'm far up. I'm in Saratoga Springs. That's past upstate.
That's upstate.
That's upstate.
There we go. Our New Yorkers.
Where you guys at?
We're in Westchester.
It's all relative. Westchester's upstate if you live in Brooklyn.
I literally just talked to somebody. I met somebody from Brooklyn this afternoon on another event, and I said, I'm from Westchester. She said, I'm from upstate. And I was like, I do not fight women, but, you know what I'm saying? don't come with that upstate stuff, man.
That's love. Now, Westchester is home, man. Especially for those of us who are in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx originally.
Okay.
Westchester is like, it's right up the block.
Skipping a jump.
Precisely. I spent a lot of time in the Bronx in my younger days.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're gonna go ahead and kick this thing off. Thank you so much for joining us here, Chris. People, I imagine most of the people who are on here know exactly who it is you are. We've been having these super school events. It got inspired by a tweet from Meek Mill, and he said he knows a whole bunch of people with a lot of money. There's like 30 abandoned buildings in Philly. Why don't we start some super schools? So we said, what exactly would that look like? And your name was definitely one who popped up that we feel like can help, fill in the gap and answer that question. So why don't you start with telling people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into how we can create some super schools.
Of course, man. So my name is Chris Emdin. I am a New York City kid. Raised most of my life in Brooklyn initially and then the Bronx. Always had a passion for education. Also always had a passion for science. So my training initially was in the sciences. So by training, I'm an antibiochemist by training. Did some mesenchymal stem cell research, etiology of schizophrenia research. My master's in natural sciences, but education always called me. And so I had a pretty good career set up for me in the sciences. Yes, son, I see you. Daddy's talking. Yeah, and had a career in the sciences, pursuing the sciences, and I found that the places where I loved the most to be was when I was working with young people, just volunteer work in schools and after school programs. And I decided I was going to follow my heart and my passion and pursue education full time, and did that to the chagrin of everybody in my community. They were like, yo, you a scientist, you mad smart. Why would you want to go into education? And I'm like, yo, y'all understand, like, education is what makes my heart speak. Like, that puts my soul on fire. And I've been lucky enough to be able to merge my world. So when I taught, I was a middle school math and science teacher, a high school physics and chemistry teacher, and then went on to pursue higher education, but always had my foot in the classroom. So I be in higher ed spaces and Ivy League institutions and all that, but I still be in the hood in the schools every single day through a couple of projects that I run. And for me, it's just like exemplifying my philosophy which is that you never have to choose between one or the other. You could be a scientist and educator. You could be hood and be brilliant. You could do all at once. And so I had the blessing to be able to do all the things that I love all at once. And that's what brought me to where I am today.
That's
okay.
beautiful.
Okay.
I love it.
Interestingly enough, and we never actually in the beginning of these things take the time to kind of introduce ourselves. It's I'm Jamal. I fancy myself an educator, though it's not in the traditional sense. Love working with kids. In every opportunity that I get. I was a horrible student, but then I had this young lady, and she's has always been an incredible student who I also just found out she's going to be an earth science teacher. So y'all got a connection. Y'all got a connection there. And we've just always had all of these conversations about what the future of education should look like. And we've had agreements and we have our disagreements as well. But the shared passion is absolutely, sorry. The shared passion has always kind of been there. So Black on Black education was kind of her love child. I let her say, what's your title?
Yeah, you said kind of. Title? It is my love child.
Hey, you better claim your intellectual property, sis.
My name is Eva Loren Jean Charles. Everyone calls me Eva. I started Black on Black education a little over a year ago, because if there can be Black on Black crime, there can be Black on Black education. And so we're going to have a conversation about the Black community and how we have always been down for each other, contrary to popular belief. Let's have a conversation how we can be down for each other when it comes to educating these kids and educating ourselves so that we can better our communities. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. And I'm so excited. I'm fangirling a little bit, not going to lie.
Oh, that's love.
But
that's love. Love is love.
Super excited. I'm super excited to be talking to you.
Yo, you know what's so lit? Like the first thing already that I want to just bring up, if you're going to imagine a super school, you guys touched upon it already, which is this notion that to be an educator requires a credential by the state or by an institution. And here's the thing, whenever folks of color, Black folks in particular, look to institutions to give us the credential to do what we innately know how to do, what we're doing is allowing our oppressor to give us the green light to do our work. And so many of us within our communities who don't have the academic credential have the street credentials to be amazing educators who know how to connect with young folks, who know how to be able to tell stories, who know how to be able to be emotionally connected to young folks, but they always have had an aversion for institutions of higher education because those institutions historically have marginalized those with the most brilliance. So for me, if you think about super schools, the first step would be not requiring certification by a state or some sanctioned body that defines who it is, could be or could not be an educator. Because somebody could be a not good test taker, but an amazing person who gives life to young folks, who needs to be in the school body connecting to young folks. When you said, like, I was not the best educator, I always say the best educators are actually those who are never that successful in traditional education because they know firsthand what did not work for them. And because they know what did not work for them, they can articulate a vision for what the new possibilities could be. That those who worked well within traditional schools are oftentimes the worst educators because they're the ones who have learned to acquiesce and bend themselves to the whim of institutions of higher education. So they've learned to be trained to do what schools want them to do. And when you're trained to do what schools want you to do, you go into schools and replicate the same oppressive practices that work for you, but did not work for a majority. So the best educators are those who are entrenched in community, who have connections to young folks. Credentials don't define an educator. Circumstances don't define an educator. What they do in relationship to young folks to set souls on fire is the ultimate definition of who's an amazing educator, which is why hip-hop artists are those who I speak to so much, because hip-hop artists in meter and rhyme with speaking over rhythms, in storytelling, and speaking to the soul of their audience, have this innate ability to be able to draw in an audience. And those are the folks we need to recruit to the classroom.
Absolutely. And I think something that you touched on that I love so deeply is how much a part of creating a super school are the educators in that building, right? So let's just talk and start off by talking a little bit about what educators need to be armed with to go into classrooms and support students regardless of socioeconomic status, but specifically for those who are living in low-income communities and who have historically not received the education that they deserve.
You know, the chief thing any educator needs to be armed with is the recognition that the job or the work or the craft of teaching is one that's innately part of being a person with melanin. And what I say to that is historically folks of color Black folks in particular, have been pushed to the margins. And what happens when people are pushed to the margins is that you develop a certain kind of creativity. And that creativity for Black folks has always been in storytelling, it's always been in song, and it's always been in following an oral history tradition. You see, in our histories, by history, we're not supposed to learn to read or write. If you were black in the United States and you were able to read or write, at one point you could be lynched. So because we could not read or write, or we were being punished by our life to read or write, we developed other skill sets. And those skill sets were the spirit of the orator, the spirit of the storyteller, the spirit of the narrative builder. And so the first thing that you have to understand, if you want to be an educator, I think I lost y'all for a minute. The first thing you got to understand if you want to be an educator is that the skill set required to be an educator is one that's inbuilt into our ancestors. So you cannot follow a Eurocentric tradition if you want to meet the needs of black and brown bodies. To meet the needs of black and brown bodies, you have to draw from an ancestral, particularly Afrocentric storytelling tradition as the anchor of being an instructor. So that's the first part. The second one is that to be an educator is to be an activist. So if you choose to teach and you don't see activism as part of your job requirement, then you signed up for the wrong job. Particularly if you want to meet the needs of black bodies, because your job has to be to set black folks free and to understand that traditionally the education system has been meant to paralyze black and brown bodies and chop them off from their ancestral history. So if you want to be an educator for black and brown bodies, you got to be able to realize that your work is to be an activist. Teaching and activism is one and the same. And a lot of educators don't recognize that, which is why they fail when they go with young people. Because you go into a classroom thinking you're about to follow curriculum, but your mission and your vision is to be able to set folks free. So young folks are looking for you to set them free, and you out there enacting curriculum that paralyzes them even more, that they choose not to learn from you. You know what I mean? So it's ancestral work, spirit work, knowing where your strength calls from or is drawn from. You know what I mean? Then after that, it's a passion for your content. You can't teach something that you don't love. You know what I mean? Like I'm an educator writ large, but I'm a science educator because I love science. You know what I mean? I love the beauty and the wonder of the universe. I love the magnificence of the cosmos. I love being able to understand how things work and how they operate. I love the chemistry of phenomena. I love looking out in the skies and wondering why they're blue and looking at rainbows, it's refraction and reflection. I love how can you make a plant green by photosynthesis and how the soil and the sun come together to create this magical shade of green. And then that life force gives us oxygen, and we breathe in the oxygen and breathe out the carbon dioxide. And we exist in a universe that has a whole other language outside of where we are. So when I teach with a passion for science, and then a recognition of my ancestral tradition that I draw from. You put those two together, ain't no young person I can't connect to. That's not hubris or ego. It's just recognizing where my spirit force is drawn from my ancestors, merge that with my passion, merge that with my blackness and my hip hop skills. It's a Rizzy. I'm built for this.
And so it's not just kids, it's adults too, because I want to go out and learn some of them things you just talked about in ways that I didn't do when I was in school. Like I felt a little like, the energy was nothing short of magnificent. So, how did that happen for you? How did it happen that you developed that love? Because, we often talk about, as we build the bricks of said super school, a love of learning is a part of those, like it has to be a part of the foundation. How'd you develop that love?
Knowledge of self, bro. So part of the super school's preparation process, how do you get your educators to be on point? Knowledge of self. If you look at hip hop, the elements of hip hop, it's b-boying, is graph, it's emceeing. The most significant element of hip hop is knowledge of self. And knowledge of self, if you draw from a 5%er tradition, or even if you draw from a psychoanalytic perspective, is knowing who you are, but also knowing whose you are. And your educators got to understand that. They got to understand who they are, as in, who am I on this planet? Who am I built to be? What am I designed for? And then also, who do I belong to? Whose tradition am I following? I'm part of the evolution of the history of black and brown bodies who have come to be able to speak truth to power. Once you understand that you're not doing work on your own, but you're a part of a collective that's bigger than you, your operation sounds different. So the super school got to focus on how do you prepare teachers to teach? And then the teacher preparation has to be on them understanding who they are and whose they are. If they are black teachers, and the teacher body got to represent the student body, always, right? So the students can see themselves. But it's also helping those teachers to gain their knowledge of self. That who are you? Who built you? What are your traditions? Are you Caribbean? Are you African American? Are you indigenous? Are you white? If you're white, where from Europe are you from? What have your people come through? What is deposited into your bones that always oozes out of you? In the world of science right now, there's the biggest sort of area that is ripe for more interrogation is in epigenetics. And what epigenetics teaches us is that what we thought was just social learning is actually deeply embedded in the genetic code of certain individuals. So what your ancestors did is not just something that they did. What your ancestors did over time gets deposited into your sort of like genetic code and your coding. So you become a manifestation of your ancestral social knowledge. So if your ancestral social knowledge is deposited into your genetic DNA, then you're intrinsically want to pass that off. When you tap into it, you can lean into it. When you lean into it, you can express it more freely.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, you be saying a word, man.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, I don't even know what I say now because I feel like he just.
That's love, y'all.
Well, I mean, I do want to go into to hip hop. I was on the last night's versus with Snoop and DMX, and that was you're 40. I think you're 42.
Yeah.
One, so like this was my
same era, my G. Yeah.
my time. So I told people last night I broke my Snoop Dogg Doggy Style tape that I got from Fordham Road in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Like it just broke. I listened to it so many times. So there's always been this. I know hip hop ed is a major part of what you communicate, and this relates to super schools in a way because it relates to what's going on in the heads and hearts of our young people. You sent a tweet that spoke to the misogyny and things to that effect that was a part of the music. And I know that it's I've had communication with people on how it's affected me and how I've had to kind of train myself on some things. So I want you to kind of go into hip hop, the good, the bad, the ugly, and where you see it playing a role in super schools, like what it looks like on an actual day.
Yo, here's the thing with hip hop, and we all have to understand this. Hip hop, like any other phenomenon on the face of the planet, is composed of a bevy of complex phenomena that exist in the world, which means that hip hop is going to be loving, it's going to be kind, it's going to be elucidating, it's going to be violent, it's going to be misogynistic, it's going to be homophobic. Why? Because hip hop takes what exists in the universe and in the world around us and it magnifies it. That's what it's always done. So if there's misogyny in America, hip hop is like, word, y'all think y'all misogynistic? Let me show you hyper misogyny.
Right.
Y'all think y'all homophobic? Word, we about to turn all the way up. Here's extra homophobia. And because of that, I think that oftentimes people look at hip hop and only accentuate the things that are part of the hip hop that are inherently negative. One, we don't look at society, how it explains that negativity. And it also doesn't give us the fact that every human being has to reconcile all of their tensions in order to find what is beautiful and what they have to offer, and then critique what is problematic about what you love so you can grow. So I'm not gonna excuse the misogyny in hip hop. I'm not gonna excuse Snoop or DMX. At the same time, I know when DMX played Slippin', my soul shook. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what it feels like to feel like, in the words of Biggie, I know what it feels to wake up fucked up, pockets broke as hell. And like, I know that feeling. And so hip hop lets us know the feeling that we have. It expresses it in negative ways. What we have to do is we have to train hip hop to be better than it was. You don't abandon it. You develop it. You don't say hip hop, you're misogynistic, so I'll never listen to you ever again. You say hip hop, you're misogynistic, and that's problematic because Black women are queens. Now I'm gonna teach you to love yourself and love our sisters the same way that you love yourself. And it's like, when we get to the point where we start abandoning our own culture, what else is there? What you gonna do? What you gonna build schools on? Textbooks? You're gonna build books on history textbooks written by folks who have completely erased Black history? Or are you gonna build your school on a curriculum that inherently describes Blackness as problematic? Or are you gonna build your school on standards that have no personal human standards of a value of Black and brownness? What you gonna build it on stories that were told by your oppressor about how messed up you are? Or are you gonna build it on textbooks that has no representation of Black and brown bodies or excellence in it? If you're gonna build a school on something, build it on something that's yours. Then train what is yours to be better. So hip hop has to be a part of any school because there's no artifact in our time that can capture the imaginations of the youth and capture the imaginations of the public like hip hop. There's no mechanism that we've known since the beginning of time that can tell a story and speak truth to power like hip hop. There's no phenomenon that I know of that a person can articulate a story and make your soul feel alive like hip hop. Now, could you imagine if you took that phenomena and you translated that towards the pursuit of knowledge. Woo!
And we
now I'm gonna use that same thing. What? The same thing that makes your soul feel like, oh my God, I just want to turn up. I just want to get lit. I just want to get excited. And you'd be like, yo, by the way, get excited towards learning too. Let me put you onto these black holes and wormholes and how the universe works also. And if you can ignite the same passion young folks have for hip hop for learning, there's no limit to the potential of black and brown bodies. Mm-hmm. And I think when we abandon our culture in pursuit of something that our oppressor has given us, you can't do super anything except super underachieve, because that's what it's built to do anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, everything you're saying kind of like speaks to me on a deeper level. One, as someone who's walking into a classroom full time in a month or so in the South Bronx, a place where I have never lived. And so I am trying to figure out the ways in which what made me excited about learning, what made me want to come to school was very different than the students that I'm going to be serving. And I have to be okay with that. And so just in you talking, there's so much passion behind it. There's so much love behind it, which is so necessary for education. I just want you to talk a little bit about the stereotypical teacher that we see in movies and on TV, and this boring person who sits at the front of the class and talks at you for hours, and just talk about the different alternatives to that are going to make students live into that same passion and excitement and love that you're showing right now. Because again, like we keep saying, that's what's going to change the world, an ignition of love of learning.
Listen, teaching without passion is just talking. You know what I mean? And so passion is a necessary component to being an effective educator. Now, the question is, well, how do you give people passion if they don't have it? Then you have to create the conditions to allow a person to feel passionate, right? And so for me, it's like, you know, they say, like, yo, Dr. E, why are you so passionate about education? Because I'm passionate about my people. Because I'm passionate about freedom, right? I'm passionate about the possibilities. I go to sleep at night and I dream about what it would look like if Black folks were free. Like I say to myself, look at what we've been able to do with a whole system designed for us to be broken, right? Like with a whole school system that denies you of your own form of expression, and we still able to make it. We still able to have Black presidents and CEOs or whatever. Could you imagine what the possibilities could be if we were allowed to be free with Pat? And it's like, you know, I think teachers just sometimes forget that. I think the nature of this work was just like, you know, get your credential, you know, and then, you know, they put you in a classroom and then, you know, cover this subject. Like that doesn't allow you for passion. Yes, 1 second, y'all. What's up, son? You good?
While he's talking to his son, I just want to let everybody know, if y'all got Twitter and you're not tweeting, teaching without passion is just talking, then you're not using Twitter properly. And I just started learning how to use it yesterday. So tag us both
and put it
out.
Yeah,
man. So yeah, part of the work is igniting that passion, is understanding the possibilities and knowing that, you know, that if we could reimagine where we could be, if like, you know, play the what if game. Like, what if we had schools designed for us? It's a wrap. You know what I mean? What if teachers understood that your connection to young people is more about authenticity than what you know? I would rather any day of the week have a teacher who does not understand the content, but has a passion and love for young people, teach my young people the content, because then they can learn the content together. And then I know that there's no ego around content knowledge acquisition because we can pursue that knowledge together. And it's like, it's reimagining what learning is. Like, learning is not about, or teaching is not about having one person have all the information and giving it to somebody else. Teaching is about having a passion enough for the subject and a curiosity about the subject to allow that same passion and curiosity to be awakened in the young person. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when I go to teach kids, I act like I don't know. They're like, Dr. E, what do I do with the subscript when I'm balancing the equation? Man, I don't know. Dr. E, how you don't know? You a whole scientist. How you don't know? Fam, I don't know. We're gonna have to figure this one out together. That question is hard. And I mess up on purpose, and I struggle on purpose, and I ask them questions. And before long, I start modeling for them what it looks like to not give up. Right? I'm like, damn, I don't know what to do with that subscript. Yo, it's stressing me out. I'm about to just quit. Nah, I can't quit because I gotta teach y'all and I gotta understand this. Yo, I'm gonna learn it with y'all. Y'all just watch me as I figure this out. But if y'all wanna help me out, because we gotta learn this right together. And that idea of shared responsibility for the acquisition of content knowledge. You know what I mean? That transforms teaching and learning.
I've never heard that before, and I absolutely love it. And I feel like I'm going to just on that sit and contemplate, because you know, it's I feel like that there's a whole workshop, you know, to be given on how to communicate with kids, where you enroll them in the process of you know you know, I don't know being okay, but it's I don't know, and now we're gonna do this, not I don't know, and so that means, you know, let me chuck the book, you know.
And think about it, we do it with babies, right? We do it with babies. And so why is it that as they get older, we stop giving them the ability to search, to be curious, to be confused, to all those things? We do it with babies. We don't teach a baby. You don't pick the legs up of a baby and make them walk. They figure it out. And so, and that is the most beautiful thing to me about teaching. And in my experiences teaching thus far have given me the most just excitement and passion. One, lessons where I implemented hip hop and allowed my students, I was like, listen, I'm a 40-year-old white woman who has never heard of whoever the hottest guy in Brooklyn is right now. Play me one of his songs and explain to me line by line what he's saying. So you just did reading comprehension, right? Now let's do it. And so figuring out these, it's just, there's so many different ways in which to get through. And I think the problem is that there's so many people who are sitting right here and are like, yeah, but this is easy. When getting right here is just, it's one more step. It's just one more.
Yes. Yo, you know, the beautiful thing about what you said is because I think when you approach the work from that lens, you know, you don't get old. You know what I mean? You ever met somebody, they like 22, like, damn, you old. Like, you talk old, you act old, like, you ain't got no swag. Like, I think it's because, like, life teaches people that the older they get, the more they need to take off their ability to be inquisitive and to play. And so, you know, by the time a teacher gets into the classroom, it's like they become so serious. And learning is really more about play than anything else. The way that anybody learns is by playing. Children learn by playing, making mistakes, falling, getting up again, and then returning to play. And so I think sometimes we've erased the art of play from the process of teaching. And I think that when you could be 70 years old and still have a youthful spirit and energy, because you still believe in play, and you still believe in discovery, and you still believe in having fun. And I think that that's a big piece of teaching and learning, that it doesn't feel like labor. There's a distinction between work and labor. You know what I mean? Like, labor is like, oh my gosh, it's a struggle for me to be able to get things done. Like, I go to work every day and I love it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love talking to Black on Black education. Y'all lit. You know what I mean? I gave a lecture earlier. Before that, I went to talk to a bunch of kids who are in middle school. And we did a little talk. Like, when you love what you do, it's no longer laborious. And I think that teachers have to learn to find the joy and the play in their teaching, right? Like, for example, this Black on Black ed, right? I'm like, yo, I got to chat. So this means that I can't watch my kids playing, and I got to sit back and I got to get a t-shirt. And like, yo, we chilling, we talking education. Ain't nothing more lit than education. We could chill and build. I'm like, yo, time out. My son over there, I'm going to go get him. We're going to come back. And that does not detract from the intellectual heft of the conversation. It doesn't make this less serious. It doesn't make it less scholarly. Like, we could do this and still live. And I think that teachers have to remember that this work is about love. It's about joy. It's about play. Don't nobody want no teacher who corny and old and don't want to have fun. I see you, son. And so that part matters too.
So we actually are we're gonna. I love everything you said, but then we are gonna go and get a little serious, because, you know, I just read that Betsy DeVos fell and she hit her head, yo, and so, you know, and now you get to replace her. No, she's fine. She'll be fine. But, you know,
she'll be all right. She's gonna be all right.
You replace her for the, you know, for the immediate, you know, for the immediate term. You know,
she lost her memory.
Yeah. Well, whatever. So what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? The day one that you're in charge of it, you know, day one where, you know, you're in charge of, you know, not just super school, you're in charge of super system. What do you do on day one to touch, move, inspire, you know, everybody who agrees with you, who disagrees with you, and the people whose job it's going to be to take what you're about to say and then go do the work?
You know, the first thing you do is you build the exemplar. You can't talk all day long. You know, the first thing I do is garner the resources to create the school that is going to be the model, the super school that everybody else is going to follow. I think it's the only way to do this work. And, you know, I ain't gonna give away too much information, but you know, you gotta do the work and research in multiple spaces, and then you gotta create the school. And then once you create the school, you gotta use that as the exemplar that everybody gets trained through, and that everybody sees what it looks like. And you gotta also be able to do the work. Like, you know, we don't need no secretary of education. We ain't never been in no classroom. So for me, you know, day one, we start creating the school. Day two, I'm going with a team of folks who I know are teachers, not just regular schmegular teachers, like teachers. And we're gonna go to every single school and model what it looks like to be an effective educator. We're gonna record them joints, and then we're gonna have training across the nation on effective delivery of information. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then we're gonna use the school that we create as a hub, where we not only train and cycle folks through, but we allow young folks who've been the most oppressed by schooling to be the ones who exist in that space. Not as a experimental of people that we're gonna experiment on, but the folks who benefit the most from where the most resources. A reversal of the existing tide in education.
So walk us through the school then. Let's, you know, it's 7 a.m. on the first day. You have to.
7 a.m. Hold on. 7 a.m.
Y'all making me want to give away some secrets, but I'm trying to hold us together. But you are finished, son. Okay. So we you know, first things first. I don't want y'all to, you know, I don't feel like I'm stunting too much with the pool in the backdrop and all that. You know, first thing once is like when kids walk into the school, the first thing is how are you greeted. So you got to have a cadre of folks who usher young folks into the school that speaks to their spirit. I'm talking about walking to the school to receive affirmations, right? That you are genius, you are brilliant, you are great by virtue of who you are. One thing I know we won't be having is no damn metal detectors and no bars on windows. So that goes in first. Then we begin with meditation, collective meditation, entire community. It could be with music in the backdrop. It could be with drums in the backdrop. It could be with silence. We'll rotate that for different days with folks who have different leanings to get that done. The next thing we will do is when you get into your particular classroom for content areas, we have do now or opening activities that are reflective of the unique communities that anybody is from. So, you know, a Fordham Road-based curriculum, a Crotona Boulevard-based curriculum. So the exemplars that we're using are community-rooted and community-based. The content knowledge acquisition is based on a project-based learning enterprise. So we are all creating a project that we're learning content through that is a project that is going to be about meeting the needs of one community need. So the first thing, you know, before we even get the school started, we've already went into the community and said, what would y'all want? Y'all want a shop opened up? Y'all want a park opened up? Y'all want swings opened up? And all of those things will be created for and by young people and receive content knowledge through the creation of a project that benefits the community. So it looks like that. We all got our unique activities. The next thing we're doing is we're not sitting in the classroom all day. We're going to our internships in different spaces so we can have adults who are not in the classroom school day be able to pour life to young people. We reconvene at the end of the day, reflect back on our experiences. We all have a panel of sorts where we're describing what we learned as it relates to content. We leave with our meditation and prayer and reflection. We come back tomorrow and make magic again.
Okay, so where's the school? When can I enroll? Because I'd love to be doing that.
We're working on it. We're working on it, sis.
Like, for real. I think last night we were talking, and for folks on here who are new to Black on Black education, we have a Black Education Conference coming August 22nd and 23rd. Please, please, please get your tickets. It's going to be incredible because we're going to be having conversations just like this in depth, arming people with sort of the knowledge of others and to create a collective action forward, right? So I think that is something that you touched on, and I want to kind of get a little deeper into it. Community is so incredibly important when it comes to educating a child. Everybody says it takes a village. It truly, truly, truly does. And that village is not always going to be biological. And so we need to make sure that we're building these villages for young people. And so just talk a little bit about parent involvement, community engagement, all of the sorts of things that we are lacking in the traditional education system as it pertains to making sure that the students in the school are connected with the world around them and ready for the world after they leave.
I mean, look, the reason why it's lacking, let's just keep it a buck. The reason why communities are lacking from schools is because schools have extracted the community. It's not because the community is disengaged or disinterested or doesn't want to show up. Schools have not made the active effort to be able to allow the community to be connected. And so the first thing you got to do is you got to go to the community. And I would make the argument, you don't even go to the family first. The family's going to come. People misconstrue this. Like, you don't go to the family first. You go to the hood, the community first. Once you've established and created a community, those extended family structures, the family recognizes that you're real and really about that life. Because families already feel as though schools don't want them there. So you're battling against not just like, you know, they might not like you, you're battling against a history of the extraction of the family from the school. So me, like, and we've done this when I used to teach at Murray Curie High School in the Bronx. Like, we went, like, first things first, we went to all the local stores. We went to the bodega, we went to the pizza shop, went to all the places where the kids used to go and gather. And we spoke to the owner of those shops and said, yo, we're a new school. These kids are special. Yo, do me a favor, yo. When the kids is buying, you know, y'all there?
You're good.
Yeah. When the kids are buying a pizza from your shop, yo, I'm gonna give you a list of kids who's on the honor roll. Give them like 50 cents off the slice. Daddy. Word. Yeah. So now we start creating currency for academic achievement in the community. Now the parents are gonna go to the store and see that their kid's face is on a bulletin board at the corner store for doing something good. They're gonna be like, yo, this school is popping. Now the school ain't gotta chase a parent who's already been disengaged. The parent is chasing the school because they realize that the school sees value in their baby. Once the school expresses a value for the young person, the community and the parents all follow suit. So don't play a battle where you're fighting somebody who don't trust you because they have a reason not to trust you.
Right.
You got to create evidence that you truly care in the community, and everybody follows suit afterwards.
Yes, I love that.
So
and
I love it. I'm just gonna say real quick, everybody, you know, who's on, we're gonna open it up for questions in a little bit. So if you guys want to, you know, start pulling questions together, you know, we'll pull you on to ask your question. What were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
You know, it's so much. I mean, it's a big challenge, and I really feel like we do have the answers. One thing I do want to ask you and your opinion on it and see if you know something that you've given thought to. I imagine you have. I always think about grades and the idea that you know, children are supposed to go to first grade, and everybody who's, you know, 6 years old is supposed to be, you know, this role for you know, for math and for science and for everything. In a project-based learning type, you know, environment, you know, how do you break with the system that everybody has to be in first, second, third grade, and maybe, you know, make it, put first, second, and third together, and fourth, fifth, sixth together, and allow people to learn to mastery, to learn to master subjects.
See, now you're talking some stuff that I don't know if everybody here ready for, because now we're talking about, now we're talking about an Afrocentric approach to instruction.
Okay.
That was always about groupings. It was always, you're in a group of folks who are in your own social age range group, but ability, like, it varies completely. So you can have a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old in the same classroom because it's about the mastery of a particular content area. And they go back and convene with folks who are their own age for the sake of social networking.
Yes.
Now, if you're gonna go all the way there, now we start talking about interdisciplinary classrooms.
Ooh.
That the notion of a science classroom, a math classroom, an English classroom, an art classroom, a history classroom as separate is a function of a very, very Eurocentric tradition that has nothing at all to do with a more rooted, grounded, transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach to instruction, because I can teach anything through my content as my entry point. If I teach a science class, I could teach kids how to write essays. I could teach them about punctuation. I could teach them about history. I could teach them about art and culture through my content. So the idea that content knowledge is only pursued by a person who has expertise in one area alone is a flawed construct. And the reason why we do it, I mean, I don't want to go, let me go real quick. The reason why we do it is because the way that schools have been structured were really for an industrial era, where you want folks to be able to develop mechanistic understandings and knowledge so they can go and work in a factory. Or a more agrarian model, where it's like learn something real quick and go like the approach to instruction that we're employing in 2020 is one that was built out of the Industrial Revolution and not one that was built on the acquisition of content knowledge, a passion for learning. So you need transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary classrooms where young folks have social groupings with kids of their age group, but they're grouped based on what they want to pursue. Yes, son. You want to go? You want to go? You want me to go inside with you? All right, y'all gonna have to rock with me as I walk with young Malcolm.
No worries.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
I life is life. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about interdisciplinary, right? So I am a product of the CUNY system. Me too. Yes. I went into John Jay College, but then I went into their CUNY baccalaureate program where I created my own major, where I studied the sociology of educational inequity and social justice in underserved communities. So I had the opportunity, unlike some folks who had a lower GPA than I did, which makes no sense to me, to create my own major, decide what professors I was going to take, decide what it meant to complete my degree. It was completely and totally, I had the full autonomy of doing that. And it gave me so much power as a student because I had power over what I decided I wanted to learn. And why we think that this isn't something that we should do for everyone is ludicrous to me, because the idea that I need to follow this step to get to my end goal doesn't make sense. And so what you were just talking about is so indicative of that. And kind of before we break out and allow folks to ask questions, I just want to kind of round it out to let you say what it is that you would want, and with the platform, with all the educators who are on here right now, what is it that you would say to them about implementing these sorts of practices into their classrooms within the current system that exists? Because we understand that it hasn't been exploded yet.
Listen, one thing we have to understand is our role as educators is to hack the system. It's not to follow the system. It's to be able to reimagine the system. So you see the structure of the classroom as it exists, and you say, okay, given this confining structure, what is it that I can do within this to reimagine it to meet the needs of young people? And so hacking the classroom looks like, okay, boom, they want us to do, do nows. So our do nows are going to be about using images from the community that young folks can choose to be the anchor of the instruction. Boom. So even within the confining structure, you create the space for a more imaginative approach to instruction. And I think teachers don't understand that their role is to hack it. They think their role is to follow it. But if you're following something that your purpose is to be able to reimagine, then you're always going to end up lost. And you said something so brilliant about your trajectory, right? Like you were a really smart, brilliant student who did well. So because of that, you were given the luxury of creating options. When in reality, the luxury of creating options should have been provided for everybody if the goal was to get everybody to be successful, which makes you realize then that the goal was not to have everybody be successful. The model of schooling is one where I will oppress you and then you'll be free later. And folks get so oppressed and never get the freedom. What up, son?
I want that idea.
Go get it. You can do it. You can do anything you want to do.
He's teaching us right here how to raise these babies.
There you go. Try mine. And you can go. My fault, y'all.
No worries. No worries. Everybody start to, pull your questions together. One thing I definitely want to give you the opportunity to do is speak to the book. It's sold out on Amazon right now. That happened fast. But speak to that and how that connects to this whole conversation. You know what I mean? What will people pick up in there?
Yo, what I tried to do in that book for white folks who teach in the hood and the rest of y'all too. So if you black on black education is the rest of y'all too. You know what I mean? But what I tried to do in that book is offer a philosophy for teaching and learning. But also offer some practical strategies to allow us to be able to get to that point. So I iron out, this approach that I've developed called reality pedagogy, which focuses on the reality of the experiences of young people as the anchor of the instruction. And it's not about giving teachers like a step-by-step process, but giving them some things that they can do to allow them to be able to get the step-by-step process that they need to be effective for young people. And then generally, a recognition of, what white folks pedagogy looks like in classrooms. And it's not a demonizing of white folks, but it's a recognition that a Eurocentric tradition in education has not done well for black and brown bodies. And how do we reimagine that system? And how do we make sure that it's a more equitable system? A lot of folks in the contemporary are talking about anti-racism and they talk about cultural relevance. I think it all stems from the same space. Create opportunities for you to be able to allow young folks to be able to be their full, most actualized selves within the system of schooling. And if you can't do it within the system of schooling, how do you reimagine the system of schooling to allow for freedom to happen? And so the book is about reality pedagogy. I go through 7 C's, which are the 7 steps in the process of reality pedagogy. And I talk about a lot of other concepts like neo-indigeneity, about some quotes and meditation points are at the end of the book that I give to educators to be able to sort of think about their work and their position in it. And then in January, I got a new joint coming out, which I'm really excited about, which is entitled Ratchetemic. And it's about, how do you exist in this world being equally as ratchet and as academic, and what kind of steps you can take to be able to construct that identity. And that'll be out in January 2021.
if you need somebody to read, you know, the where you at with it now, you know what I mean? I'm happy to take a look and give you some suggestions.
I might take you up on that, King. I might take you up on that.
So we want to give the folks on the line an opportunity to ask some questions to Dr. Emdin. If you could just
you can throw them in the chat if you want to come off mute and then ask a question. Come off mute and ask a question. Yeah, we've got 14 minutes left, and we want to maximize that time so that everybody on here gets the opportunity to kind of get their questions answered and get closer and closer to the super school that we want so badly to create for these kids.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I've been following your work for a long time. I actually met you at Tip Summit.
Oh, dope.
Yes, and so one of my biggest things is I'm a recent graduate in education policy, and I want to create a hip hop and literacy app. But my biggest problem is how can we close the generation gap in hip hop? So like, say I'm 22, but I grew up on Ice Cube. I can name all the lyrics to Why Gangsta Rap Got Me Good. I can name every Outkast song and everything. But I'm talking to the new generation. I just watched an episode of Blackish last night, and they talk about Prince and the kids not knowing who Prince was.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is how can we close the hip hop generation gap?
Because
especially when you talk about code switching and everything.
Yo, that's a brilliant question. Brilliant question. I think, listen, anything. One of my favorite quotes is by Frantz Fanon, and it says, "Anything can be explained to the people on a simple condition that you want them to understand." If you feel like young folks ain't connected to the original hip hop, guess what? If you have a desire to make them understand and you introduce them to it, they will. And I feel like a super school has to have a cultural appreciation course where young folks understand the roots of the culture that they have created. You know what I mean? Like, so I want young folks to listen to a song, and in the class we identify the sample, and we trace the sample back into where that came from. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that is also a type of knowledge that's essential. So if you want to close that gap, sis, you just got to introduce it to the young folks. Believe it or not, they listen. They want to listen. I used to walk into my classroom, I just play like some OJs. They'd be like, "What is this? It's mad old." And then before long, they singing people all over the world. Like it's really about our desire to have them understand, lessen their willingness to understand. If you bring it to them, they will listen. Trust. And then also, it's also got to be us being like, you know, you can't also be so old that you can't listen to what they listening to. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like hip hop. It's just Biggie and Jay-Z for me. You know, just the poor righteous teachers for me. Nah, they some young cats are saying some stuff. Lil Baby's new joint around the Black Lives Matter protest. Brilliant work. YBN Corday, he's spitting.
Yes.
He is spitting. Cole is the middle child, but Cole is spitting. He got some slip-ups, we forgive him, but he's spitting. And so the notion that hip-hop ended when you were young is so problematic. So if you want young folks to listen to your music, then you got to be willing to listen to their music. Then you have a cultural exchange process, and it can happen in school and in the classroom.
I like that. I'm gonna try some of the young people music. Go ahead.
Another question. Go ahead.
I have a question. It's not a fully formed thought, so stick with me for a minute. Something you said one time at a Black male educators conference has become the hashtag of my existence. And you said, in talking about like building schools similar to the super school we're talking about, is we don't need them, y'all. And I've been using that to drive my steps because I got into education through all the Kool-Aid. Teach for America, charter school existence, all that shit where they like played on my passion. And I've been trying to figure out, like, as I'm giving myself the courage to step away from that ish, like, how do I then also protect what I'm building in my kids from those same ideals? Because we also know that they love our ish and take it and turn it into their versions that then force us to be reinventing the wheel and doing the same things to our kids. So I guess, like, how do we go about protecting us as we build this idea?
First of all, you just delivered a whole word. You sometimes you can't just respond to a question. And you know what's so funny? People say, like, my thoughts are not yet fully formed. The thoughts are fully formed. The words just can't capture the power and the passion of the thought. And this is always a thing that I engage with Black and brown folks. And I'm not trying to call you out, so please forgive me if it comes off that way.
Look, I'm here to learn.
Yo, our thoughts, Jay once said, I'm so far ahead of my time, I'm about to start another life. Look behind you, I'm about to pass you twice. And what happens for us is our thoughts are so complex and layered and so fully formed in a world that's beyond the present, that words are not powerful enough to capture the emotion. Sometimes when I'm engaging with folks like you, because you got that sauce, I can feel it, you ain't even got to articulate the sentence. You just got to be like, them playing passion. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Like, and first of all, that's the first thing. The second thing, a whole word with playing on my passion.
Mm-hmm.
You only see the half of me. You don't see my feet. You don't see my feet right now. That right there is everything. And I think, sis, the way that you work towards not allowing your passion, your purpose, your mission, and your vision to be played with is when you see the co-option of it, you call it out in the immediate. Because this doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like overnight. It's an eased process. Yeah, I put a tweet out the other day and folks got mad at me. I said, yo, watch what they do with anti-racism. They about to turn into culturally relevant pedagogy. And when I said it, people like hit me up on a DM, like, why would you say something like that? Anti-racism is the goal. Anti-racism is the goal, but the goal is not the language or the words. The goal is the feeling. Yep. When the words get adopted into the discourse of power and gets articulated by a person whose work is about oppression, it means that they have taken the word, colonized it, and trying to sell you back something that you feel in your soul. So we've got to be able to call that out. Not everybody that says anti-racist is about anti-racist work. Not everybody that says cultural relevance is on your team. And so you have to ask people, what do you mean by that? Please articulate that more clearly for me. And we are so excited to have, we're so excited to have folks of other persuasions adopt our language that we don't realize that what they're going through is a co-option of our discourse for the sake of undermining our purpose.
Yep.
People ask me all the time, like, why you have to name it reality pedagogy? I said, because they done effed up culturally relevant pedagogy. They done messed up culturally sustainable pedagogy. I have to do something else. And somebody might come along the line, and I'm going to protect reality pedagogy, but they might come and abuse reality pedagogy. And when that comes, I'm going to call them out, and then we're going to have to reinvent that. And we don't reinvent for the purpose of just coming up with more fancy terms. Reinvent for the sake of reimagining and recreating, because we recognize that the power of the work has been adopted and taken and repurposed by the oppressor. And when I say oppressor, folks are like, why are you talking about oppressor so much? Because it's oppressive. It's oppressive. You forced me to go into a school. I got to go to school every single day to face somebody who undermines my purpose, my potential, and my joy, who teaches me content in a way that makes me have a bad relationship to that content. And then I come out of it, I either don't graduate or I graduate having a shell of my former self. That's oppression. And so you got to call it out when you see it and when you hear it. And you gotta tap back into your soul and your source consistently. You know, I gave a talk to some folks at Lincoln Center today, and I was like, listen, you lose your purpose when it's about you. You ignite your mission when it's about us. And everybody want to be the next education superhero star. I'm not interested in that shit. I mean, if folks get inspired by my work, I give thanks for it. But I want to work with folks. I don't want to be nobody's hero. I want to build community. But why you think I'm on black ed? Yo, let's keep it a buck with y'all. I am tired today. I had like 7, 8 joints back to back to back to back. But my moment of leisure is engaging with my people about the work. And so it's about allowing yourself to understand this, that you're part of a collective. You're in unison with. I'm gonna give you one quick example, if I may. There was this if you go up in Photoshop or you do any advanced mathematics, there's this curve. It's called the Binet curve, and that curve is developed by this guy who was a mathematician, a French mathematician. And you remember them old cars like Citroëns or Renaults? They had this like really weird, beautiful curves in the front of it. So this guy was creating these amazing curves, and he developed a formula to be able to calculate that curve. And the bunch of scientists went and followed this, and they said, wow, this guy is amazing. And we read his autobiography, and he said, I am the most genius mathematician of my time, blah, 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 blah. And then we looked at this curve, and folks are looking at indigenous Native American folks and how they created curves when they were making wigwams or when they were making bows and arrows. And when they look at the bows and arrows and all these things that these folks were creating, they realized that these folks were creating the curves as well. So the scientists said to the indigenous folks, where did y'all learn these curves from? And indigenous folks said, we listen to everybody. They said, well, who's the body? Because I want to know how to get this done. And he said, we went out into the forest and we listened to all the people. And the guy went out in the forest and said, there was nobody in the forest. And he said, did you listen to the trees? Because the trees taught us how to be able to bend them to the perfect mathematical curve. And so what that person said was, everybody in my circle informs what I do to help me bend towards the arc of justice. But the Eurocentric model says, I came up with the model as I created a car, it's mine. When it's all about you, when it's all about you, it stops and ends with you. When it's all about us, you understand that everybody has something to offer in the collective, right? And so you have to, another way to do this is to, when anybody talks about only them and don't talk about us, stop listening.
Wow. I mean, you said a word. You said a whole lot of words.
My sister said the word. You know what I mean? My sister said the word.
You know what? But it's that we part. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It is. You know, she gave you an alley-oop. You know what I mean? And didn't even know she was doing it. You know what I mean? But it's a part of that connection, because everybody on here at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night when they could be watching. I mean, Scandal's going, but they could be watching something else. You know, you know what I'm saying? People are here because we love the kids and we love one another, and we want to see this work progress, and we're committed to doing so. So
say love again, man. I think we forget about that part.
Yes.
Love, radical love, agape love, love of self and love of others, love of the continuum, love of the beauty of blackness, love for the possibilities. And folks have abandoned love as the anchor of teaching. You know, we exist in a world where we just abandon this idea of love, y'all. You know what I mean? Do you love your subject? Do you love your students? Do you love your craft? Do you love the mission? Do you love the vision? And if you ain't got no love, we don't need you. You know what I'm saying? Let all of us that draw from the well of radical love do the work together and leave us alone.
Common said, only love can reboot us. And you know, and I absolutely positively agree wholeheartedly. So Chris, we really appreciate you.
Salute. Listen, I just want to support.
I hope that this is the first of many. We want to thank everybody who who came out tonight. You know, we hope you guys continue to join us. We're going to throw the Black on Black Education link, the Black Education Conference, link into the fold. You know, Chris, I think we might have, like kick somebody out, you know what I'm saying, to make some space for you, you know what I'm saying? Shoot me an email, let me know, like, if there's a part for you, if you'd like to, play it in the upcoming conference for sure. We're going to be having similar conversations to this. I'm not sure if anybody can do it as powerfully, but like with it, it's absolutely going to be.
It's shared work, beloved. It's shared work. Keep going, keep moving, keep pushing. I'm glad to be able to get in here early because y'all gonna blow up and transform the whole game. And I'm like, yo, I got a chance to kick it with them early. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. Everybody, see, Hip Hop Ed, hashtag Hip Hop Ed, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on Twitter. Join the conversation. Hashtag at Hip Hop Ed on Instagram. Hit me up at Chris if you have questions or thoughts or reflections. Make sure you follow Black on Black Education and the amazing work that they're doing. I'm about to go have dinner with my little ones. But let's lead and move with radical love and create the super schools that all our babies need. You heard?
Thank you. Get your tickets for the Black Education Conference. I do it every time. The Black Education Conference. We appreciate y'all so much. Have an incredible night. Thank you, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.